Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We're just going to give a minute or two for folks to be able to come into the Zoom for the seminar. So just bear with us for a minute or two, and we'll get started in about 2 minutes. Thanks so much. Okay, why don't we get started? I know some folks might be just joining the Zoom, and they can hop in when they're ready. But good afternoon, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today for my 7th annual Senior Scam Stopper Seminar. My name is Assemblymember Berman, and I represent the 23rd District in the California State Assembly, which goes all the way from Pacifica up in the north down to Saratoga, Campbell, and a part of San Jose down in the south. And I began hosting these events before anyone, for example, had heard of COVID, or when hardly anyone was thinking of AI, of artificial intelligence. And the world has changed a lot since the first Senior Scam Stopper seminar that I hosted to today's. And so have the strategies that bad people use to scam you out of your hard-earned money. The Federal Trade Commission reported that during 2023, seniors reported losing more than $1.9 billion to fraud. However, the vast majority of fraud goes unreported, and the total estimated loss is as high as $61.5 billion. Older adults reported losing more money to investment scams than any other type of fraud, with a $538 million increase from 2022. And that was just in reported fraud. As we know, that's just a small fraction of the fraud that actually happens. And adults aged 60 and over were more than 5 times as likely as adults aged 18 to 59 to report losing money to a tech support scam, which is categorized as an impersonation scam. Americans aged 60 and older lost a staggering $700 million to online scams in 2024, marking a sharp rise in online fraud. And the most commonly reported scams were imposter scams, where criminals pretend to be government officials, businesses, or even relatives in trouble. That's right. Scammers can now use artificial intelligence to impersonate your grandkid's voice and to use that to call you and give you the impression that your loved one is in trouble. They're stranded overseas, or they were in a car accident and they're at the hospital, and they get you to send them money or share personal information that they can use to steal your money later on. These statistics underscore the critical need for education and awareness to protect older adults from scams and fraud. Fortunately, we have 6 experts here today who will teach you how to protect yourself from the scams that have been circulating, some of them for years and some of them over the last few months. Scammers know how to prey on people's fears, their fears of being fined or getting bad credit, having your utilities shut off, or fears that you didn't do something right with the IRS, or like I mentioned, that your well-being, that the well-being of a loved one is at risk. As creative and relentless as these scammers are, there are steps you can take to protect yourself and your loved ones. Today, we will have presentations from Kira Hall from the Contractor State License Board, Katie Carresco from the Department of Financial Protection, Lisa Strange from the Department of Insurance, Bryce Avalos from Cal Privacy, Destiny Wells from the Bureau of Household Goods and Services, and Johannes Wong from the Department of Real Estate. We've saved plenty of time for Q&A after the presentations. Please feel free to add your questions or comments or experiences to the chat or Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen for our panelists. We also received some questions in advance, which we will have some time to answer during the Q&A session. Many people have asked if we will be recording this session. Yes, absolutely. It is being recorded and it will be uploaded to my website after the event for you to reference or send to your friends and family in my district or even outside of my district or outside of the state. If you have friends or loved ones that you think would benefit from learning about all the different scams that are out there. I also want to add that if you have been scammed and you don't know what to do, please call my district office and we will help you and direct you to resources to get help. The number for my district office is 650-324-0224. Again, that was 650-324-0224. And I want to emphasize that if you've been scammed or you think you are in the middle of being scammed, don't be embarrassed. Please ask for help. And just as a little anecdote, just 2 weeks ago, I had some friends who reached out to me. Now, one of these friends is a C-level executive at a multi-billion-dollar company here in the Bay Area, and the other friend, their partner, has been very high up at some of the biggest tech companies here in the Bay Area. And my friend had gotten a phone call where she was told that it was the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office, and that she was supposed to report as a witness to a court hearing, that she'd signed a statement saying that she would report, and she'd signed a statement of facts, and she did not report for the court hearing, and therefore there was a bench warrant out for her arrest, and that she had to report to the courthouse immediately. And she was told, if you call a lawyer, that is a sign of guilt, and that will be used against you if you reach out to a lawyer. And now my two friends were my age, who were in their 40s, who are tech execs at some of the most successful companies in the Bay Area, weren't sure what to do. They didn't know if this was a scam or not. And so I helped them walk through it. We did some research. We figured out that it was quite a common scam, in fact. And they ignored it, and the scammers didn't follow up. But it just goes to show that it's not just seniors who are susceptible to these scams. Really, anybody can get tricked by these scams, and can end up in a situation where they've given away critical personal information that can be then used to steal money from them. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Kira Hall from the California Contractor State License Board, who's going to get today's event started. Thank you so much, Kira.
Thank you, Assembly Member. It's a pleasure to be here today. And again, I want to give a huge thank you to the Assembly Member, his office, to everyone who has helped make this happen today and put this event together. This is my second time working with this office to do this. So I am thrilled to get to do this every year. And give me just a moment while I get my PowerPoint up. Okay, sorry about that. All right, let's give that another shot. Perfect. All right, let's get this going for everyone. So again, my name is Kira Hall, and I am the Outreach Coordinator and Designated Speaker for the Senior Scam Stopper Program. So it is an absolute pleasure. I do these statewide and obviously virtually, so it's great to see so many people to take the time to come learn today. And let's get started. We're going to be learning about, I know, the very exciting topic of construction fraud. And for those of you who are homeowners, what you should know ahead of hiring contractors and how to be informed consumers. So for those of you who aren't familiar, so the Contractor State License Board, we have essentially a dual purpose. We license the construction industry to work and provide services in the state. And by doing so and regulating the construction industry and contractors, we can protect consumers. And we have been around, believe it or not, since 1929. with this purpose. So a little bit about who we are. So I'm going to talk a bit just to get started. And again, my apologies if I go a little fast for the sake of time. I'm going to be speeding through a little bit, but we will have a great Q&A at the end to make sure everyone's questions and concerns get addressed. So I'm going to talk about why seniors are often targeted in construction scams and scams in general. I'm going to discuss some scam tactics and what you should know before hiring a contractor. I'm also going to briefly go over a few examples of construction jobs that we see a lot of scams happen with and some tips to be wary of. I'm going to show you how to file a complaint should you need it and how to check a license on our website, which is a fantastic resource. And then I'm going to go over some resources we have available on our website for seniors. Okay, so to get started, so to kind of open up the topic of seniors and how you as a population should be informed when it comes to scams. So seniors are a population, right? Not only are you polite, you're more likely to take the time to talk to someone, right, who approaches you or reaches out to you over the phone. And you may spend a lot of time alone or you may live alone. And scammers can take advantage of people who may be isolated, but also people who may have accrued wealth, social security, nest eggs, money in your home. And many seniors may have that. And unfortunately, scammers know that. So we want to make sure that you never fall victim in situations like that. And believe it or not, so scammers are attracted to any amount of money that they can get their hands on. So don't think that they're not going to go the extra mile, even if it's over a very small amount of money. Because unfortunately, that is exactly what they'll do. That's where they start. And the goal is to go further and further, right? Um, so to get a little farther into the topic, so I know this is a very silly thing, right? Don't answer your door to strangers. We're all across generations taught this as kids. But the reason it's so important, I know especially in California, a lot of you may have solar salesmen or people at your door, very high pressure, trying to sell services that sometimes might be um, advertised as free or a deal that's only available that day, right? It's okay to say no. It's okay to continue to say no, to have boundaries, because if there's someone at your home or on your property that you're not expecting, that doesn't have a right to be there, it's okay to say no. If you genuinely want that service, the deal, right, or the service should be available any other time, right, as it should be. And it is best when possible, obviously, to avoid making cash payments. And the reason for this is cash payments aren't traceable, which means it is the preferred method of a scammer to take money because it's a lot easier to obtain money as a scammer via cash because there's no bank record. And it unfortunately makes it a lot harder because of that for law enforcement or for people to trace and get that money back to the victim. Especially when it comes to construction, if a legitimate construction business can't take a check or run a card or is telling you they can only take cash, so for the most part, that isn't a very professional business practice. So that is a red flag of a construction scam and something to be very mindful of. All right. And I know you're going to get a lot of valuable information from me and from all my fantastic speakers who are here today, my partners as well. But if there's anything you take from this presentation, I want it to be what's on this slide because this is so valuable to consumers. So projects priced at $1,000 or more require the contractor to be licensed. For those of you who may hire handymen at CSLB, we call them handy persons, or contractors to do small jobs below this amount. So that does not require a license if the job falls below that price, but they're not regulated by CSLB. So if you were to have an issue with them, it would be a lot harder, right, for us to intervene because when the person is licensed, we can do investigations, right, and possibly, depending on the determination, suspend or take action against a license on the administrative level. Also, get the sales pitch in writing because a great verbal, exciting handshake and like a verbal sales pitch, it gives you no legal protection, but the information writing does. and down payments. So this is money paid ahead of work being done or materials delivered. As well, many of you may be familiar with paying for construction projects in progress payments, where you pay in steps as the work is completed. So down payments would be prior to a step of the work being completed or prior to, the job being completed. So down payments cannot exceed 10% or $1,000 of the total contract price. That is whichever is less. And the reason for that is this helps ensure that contractors or scammers don't take a lump sum from you up front and then abandon the job, right? Which we obviously never want anyone to experience. And then get at least 3 bids, take your time to shop around, compare your options, never feel pressure to work with the first person that gives you a sales pitch, and ask to see their pocket license and photo ID. Over here, you can see this is a sample of what a contractor's license looks like. And at the end, I will show you how to check their license on our website to make sure they have everything in place and they're in good standing, that they are who they say they are. You'll also want to ask for that liability and workers' comp insurance proof, because this really does help protect homeowners. When a crew is sent out to do work on the home, when a job starts and any of those employees get injured on a homeowner's property, so the homeowner becomes liable for the injury when that workers' comp is not in place, right? So that is why it's so important. And get a detailed written contract. Again, the more you have in writing, the more you're protected. And don't let payments get ahead of the work or pay for anything that's not up to your standards. So if you have concerns about the work being completed or the work happening in a way you didn't think, you didn't expect, talk to your contractor before making additional payments. And again, so the down payment limit, this cannot exceed 10% or $1,000 of the total contract price, whichever is less. And this does apply to any home improvement job. So pretty much anything you're going to have done on or around your home is subject to this. And keep all your project documents, photos, emails, text messages, etc., in a place you can easily access, because it's a huge benefit to you. I know it can be such a pain, right, to keep track of all your legal documents, but should you need it, it's great to have for consumer protection. And all consumers do have 4 years from the date of the construction to file a complaint. So you do have that time should you realize later that something didn't go, the way you wanted it to. And ages 65 and older have a 5-day right to cancel a contract. Should you realize, oh, I shouldn't have jumped the gun on this, or I just don't feel ready. Anyone below 65 has 3 days. All right, and I'm going to briefly talk about ADUs because of the relevance to seniors. So ADUs are accessory dwelling units, and these are essentially either building a structure onto an existing home or structure, right? You're attaching something, or you're building a structure on a property detached. And a lot of seniors are having these additional living spaces built so they can be like an aging loved one, can be accommodated close to home of relatives with some support, but still with that independence of having their own space. And I see a lot of seniors choose to do jobs like this, but be very wary when it comes to picking your contractor. So make sure that they're aware of local regulations, permit requirements, laws that are specific to the county. The city municipal law can be very specific and differ across California. So don't be afraid to just do a little bit of research yourself, so you're able to fact check and have the confidence that they are the best contractor for the job. The down payment limit is very important to this, because unfortunately we do see a lot of complaints come from jobs in that were ADUs where the contractor took a bunch of money up front and abandoned the job, which we do not want to see. And again, additional payments should only be made for materials delivered or work completed. And real quick, I want to make sure I'm good on time. So real fast, I am going to address solar. Feel free to use the QR code as well. Our website has a lot more information. But in general, solar is not free. So be very wary of the people, knocking down your door trying to sell you free solar, but still high pressure. Like, if it's so free, why is the deal only available today, and why are they pushing it so hard? So check that license first, make sure that they're licensed specifically to perform solar, and make sure you understand the contract in your own terms. I know that can be difficult, but at least making sure you understand the payment schedule and the timeline, things like that. We want to make sure you're in control and you know what you're paying for. And then if you have been scammed, so give us a call. You can file your complaint directly on our website or give us an email. And again, if you have any questions later, I'm happy to address them. All right, and then real quick before I conclude, I am going to show you how to check the license on our website. And we have our license check on the far left of the front page of our website. It will take you here where you can input the license number, the business name, the home improvement salesperson or their name, which is essentially a salesperson license through CSLB to sell the service and sign the contract. So they'll need to have their own salesperson license, as well as the company they're representing will need to have a contractor's license. And then this is a sample of what a license profile will look like when you look it up. It will show you what types of work they are licensed to perform. It will show you when it expires and their workers' comp and bond information as well. I highly recommend you use this if you have a job coming up. It is a great resource to give you, more confidence. And this is our senior resource page. We have a ton of great resources available on our website. It has been an absolute pleasure. So again, if you have any questions, we will all be happily available at the end. And here's our final contact information. So we've got our call center number, our general CSLB email, the outreach email that I run if you have questions about our program or the presentation, and then our senior website. So thank you all again. It has been an absolute pleasure. My name is Kira Hall, and I am CSLB's outreach coordinator, and I run the Senior Scam Stopper program here. So thank you so much, and I'm going to turn it over to Katie Caresco from the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. Thank you. All
right. Thanks, Kira. Now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you, Assemblyman, for having me today. This is really exciting. Let's see. Okay. So thank you again so much. I'm going to give you a quick overview of my department, and then I'm going to talk about how we help consumers, and then we'll dive into some common scams and fraud and what to look out for. I wish we had more time. There's so much going on, but I know the other speakers will probably cover the same thing. But again, I'm Katie Caresco, Education and Outreach Specialist for the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. We'll just call it DFPI. I know that's a mouthful. And if the name doesn't sound familiar, we've had a few name changes over the years, but we have been around over 100 years. And our main focus really has been from the beginning consumer protection and also education. We want to make sure that consumers understand financial products before they purchase them. We want to make sure that they know their rights, and we want to help make sure that they avoid being a victim of financial fraud. So before we begin, quickly, I just want to give this disclaimer that I do represent my department, but these are my opinions, and this is an educational, for educational purposes only, and not financial advice. Okay, now that we got over that, so who do we regulate? What is the DFPI? We license and regulate various types of financial products and services, including, here, state chartered banks, credit unions, student loan servicers, money transmitters. So when you're ever sending or receiving money using Western Union, PayPal, Venmo, everybody uses Venmo. Securities issuers, broker dealers, payday lenders, mortgage servicers, debt collectors, and all things crypto now. So basically, anyone selling a financial product in the state, we have a hand in, and we are trying to keep you safe and have an open market as well. I will put up contact information at the end if you want to check out the website where you can get a full list. So what is our role? We're here to enforce California finance laws and regulations by, again, licensing literally hundreds of thousands of these financial services, products, and professionals. Our employees go out and conduct exams, which are like an audit, to make sure providers are following the law, and our enforcement team investigates suspected fraud and scams. Now, we do take legal action against bad actors and others defrauding people. We actually partner with law enforcement to bring criminal charges forward. My responsibility at our public affairs unit is to be more proactive and talk to consumers any way we can about fraud and scams, and to really make sure we get ahead of the scam before it happens. You know, in addition to presentations like this, we offer free publications. We're happy to send them to you, webinars and online courses. So now let's get to the good stuff. Let's switch to common scams and fraud. Okay, just look at these statistics. I know the Assemblyman went over a few Federal Trade Commission statistics beforehand, but this is just for romance scams. So popular right now, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with it. We just have to do our due diligence. You know, more than ever, especially after the pandemic, people are looking for relationships, and they're turning to dating apps and social media sites as well. And there is an app for everyone: Match.com, Christian Mingle, and even Silver Singles. So really, there is something for everyone. And unfortunately, scammers prey on that. And here's how something might work. Say a fraudster develops an online profile on a dating app, or even, you know, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. They use photos of other people, usually good-looking people, and that they find online, and they reach out to potential victims to attempt to develop some sort of relationship. They may claim to live in another state or another country, but they're interested in meeting and taking the relationship to another level. They invest a lot of time and a lot of effort into really deepening relationships with the victim. They really want to make them feel special. They may also suggest that you move the relationship to a private channel like email or text or even a chat app. Either way, they want you to keep the relationship secret. They tell you that it's special. They always have excuses why they can't meet you in person. And they tell you not to tell other people. You know, they say they won't understand our love. Let's just keep it between us. And these relationships can go on weeks, months, years even, I've heard. And it can literally happen to anyone. When they have you where they want you, they always pose some sort of urgent request for money, either to send gift cards, cash. They may even let the victim in on a lucrative investment opportunity. We see that a lot, including virtual currency. So here is a screenshot that I found on Instagram of a woman who is very attractive, I think, on the left, who legitimately thought she was in some sort of special relationship with Brad Pitt. And that's not even a good picture of his face superimposed on someone else's body. But she sent him 850,000, that's euros, that's not even dollars. And she was in France. So these con artists are really convincing. So you have to be vigilant and use your head as well as your heart. She thought she was helping him through, I think, some medical issue. So that's pretty scary. You know, let's know the red flags. Only download apps or these types of apps from legitimate app stores, not just a link that's ever provided to you. You can always check somebody's profile picture and do a reverse image search. And you can do that just by using Google or a site like TinEye. Verify, do some research, Google. It's so important. Do your research. Make sure that this person even exists. It's really hard to talk to someone and tell them that who they're speaking to or who they think they love might not actually be a real person. In fact, they're in a different country in some warehouse with a computer talking to 60 other people at the same time, telling them the same story. So really, talk to a friend or family member. Don't keep it a secret. That's what they want you to do. Let's talk text scams. I probably receive 3 of them every single day. I'm sure everybody here does too. Whether they want to buy my property or I owe a bridge toll, right? We've all got that. Or I have an opportunity to save money on my Xfinity bill. Got that one too. This is an actual text from my phone that I received from Wells Fargo, who is my bank. And they said that there's been some sort of security issue with my account. But if you look a little bit closer, there's just a few things wrong. Well, the from message, it wouldn't look like that. It wouldn't be abbreviated WF. You know, there's some grammatical issues. There's a period in the middle. There's a weird link with a bunch of gobbledygook that doesn't really make any sense. So you just want to be really careful. I do online banking, so an email like this wouldn't be out of the ordinary, or a text message. But it should always take you to the main login page on the app or mobile device where you type in your login information and password as usual. Always verify with the bank or financial institution before you send any money or give personal information. And call the number, if you're not sure, on the back of your card, not the number that they give you. And then you always just want to delete these and click report junk at the bottom. And that actually sends a notification to your provider and blocks the caller. So that's definitely important. So what can we do to stay safe? At the bottom left, this is really important. It is two-step verification, also known as multi-factor authentication. This one's so important. And I really want you to take this away from this presentation. Here's how it works. So say that I'm signing into one of my accounts online, and I'll use my username and password as usual, but then there's just one more step that I have to take before I can gain access to my account. I'll have to provide another code sent to me either by text, email, or even a phone call. You can set that up. This way, no one else can log in without being you. That's the reasoning. This feature is available on anything you do online. It's available on Google products, Amazon, eBay, all email platforms, all social media, cable internet, cell phone service, financial institutions, anywhere you shop online and have an account. Almost anything you do, you just have to ask for it. So to recap, I know that's a little bit confusing. Say that I'm going to complete my order on Amazon, but before I can check out, they have to send me a code via text message to my personal cell phone, and I have to enter that code before it will let me proceed. So it would be almost impossible for someone to remotely get into one of my accounts without having access to my cell phone. So I really think it's a great tool to have and could potentially stop a lot of fraud. Please look into that. What else? Passwords. On the right, we all have that junk drawer with a notebook full of our passwords, don't we? We don't want to do that. Please make sure you are storing them safely. You can get a password manager online, but you can, I know we're supposed to have a different password for every single thing that we do, and we're supposed to change them periodically as well, which is really difficult. So make sure that if you're writing them down to remember in the future, put them somewhere unique. If someone breaks into your house, they're not just wanting your TV anymore. They're going for passwords because they can do a lot more damage. So please put them in a folder, maybe that says recipes or something that somewhere no one would really think to look, unless you're a really good cook. Secure network at the top. We all know this. Make sure that your Wi-Fi password is protected. You can also consider a VPN, which is a virtual private network, and it encrypts your devices just for a little bit of extra safety. I tell people it's like a force field around your device. I have one on all of my devices, and I feel a lot safer, especially with my children online. And then, really important, take a photo of this slide, or I think they'll be available to you as well. But make sure to freeze your credit, especially seniors. It's free and it can protect you from identity theft, really. no one can open credit in your name. You do have to visit each of the credit bureaus. It's not difficult. Here's the information right here. You can even do it over the phone, but it is really easy online. I've done it. I did it 2 years ago, and I swear it cut down on my junk mail too. So please freeze your credit. It doesn't mean that you can't use your credit cards, and it won't put a hit on your credit, but it's so important. And if you know that you're going to be financing something in the future, like a car or a house, that's okay. You can reverse it and then put it back on. I really do think it is so, so important. Please, please, please freeze your credit. And really remember to trust your instincts. Check a license before you sign anything, especially a financial contract. Contact us. We have a phone number where someone actually answers the phone and can answer your questions. Let us know. Take your time. Don't ever feel rushed, and especially avoid financial decisions like you're going to the grocery store. You don't want to go when you're hungry. And also, you don't want to be rushed, especially if you feel like someone's pressuring you. Please visit our website, give us a call. Like I said, toll-free number, someone actually answers the phone, which is awesome. You can email me. I received this email if you have a personal question you'd like to ask. And please consider subscribing to our newsletter. And there is the link at the bottom. Thank you so much. And next we have Lisa Strange from Department of Insurance.
Great. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It's my pleasure to be here and share important information with all of you today. As Katie mentioned, my name is Lisa Strange, and I'm the Northern California Outreach Manager here at the Department of Insurance. So I wanted to start with just a brief overview of the Department of Insurance, what seniors need to know, discuss common insurance scams, and then how you can avoid being a victim, as well as some important contact information. And then I'll close with resources available to you from the Department of Insurance. So first of all, I wanted to just kind of share a little bit about the Department of Insurance. As you've kind of heard, we use acronyms a lot in state service. And so the Department of Insurance is also known as CDI. And we're a state agency who regulates the insurance marketplace. And so we do things like protect consumers from fraud and abuse, regulate most lines of insurance and maintain insurer solvency, set standards for agents and brokers that are licensed to sell insurance to us, perform market conduct reviews of insurance companies, and resolve consumer insurance complaints. Making sure you guys see my screen, right? Yeah, okay, great. Thanks, Katie. So we know that reports indicate that seniors are the largest population targeted for scams. And so why is that? And we've learned that it's because many times seniors may have money accumulated in their homes, life insurance, retirement savings, and believe it or not, there are people in this world that want to just steal a piece of our hard-earned savings. And so the good news is, though, there is a lot of protection programs for seniors, and we're going to talk about some of those today. And you've already heard from folks about the different protections in place for us. So some of the popular insurance scams, and when I say scams, it's not to make you afraid or paranoid. I like to consider it as strengthening your intuition. And so the Medicare fraud that we hear about right now are that scammers may call, email, or even show up at your door pretending to be a Medicare representative. And they often ask for personal information, maybe like your Medicare number. And what they're going to do is submit false claims. And the other tactic they're doing is offering free medical equipment or services that are then billed to Medicare without your knowledge. So to protect yourself, remember that Medicare will never contact you unexpectedly for personal details. So if you get one of these requests, always call Medicare directly if you're unsure if the request is real. The next scam involves fraudulent agents who collect insurance premiums, but they never actually purchase the policy. So seniors may believe that they are covered only to find out that when you need to file a claim that no policy exists. So for example, you might be sitting across the table from someone who represents to you that they are an insurance agent, and you want to buy a policy with them. You give them a check, so you think you have a policy, but maybe you've written the check directly to them instead of to the company, or you left it blank and they said they would fill it in. And then they've maybe cashed that check and they've given you documentation, so you think you have a policy, and it's not until you go to file a claim that sadly there's no policy that exists. So ways to avoid this are really to request official documentation and verify the agent's credentials with our department, or your local state department if you're not in California. And I think it's similar to how Kira walked us through how to check a contractor license. The same with Department of Insurance. You can check to make sure the agent or broker is licensed in good standing with the California Department of Insurance. Also, there are some scammers who are targeting us after natural disasters or damage to our homes. So they may pose as a contractor, which thankfully we got to hear from them about that, promising quick repairs, but they either perform substandard work or they disappear after taking your payment. So they sometimes will also file claims to help us file. They'll ask us if we want their help to file insurance claims, but then they manipulate that process for their own gain. So really, to stay safe, we want to remind you to always work with licensed contractors and communicate directly with your insurance company. You don't need to use someone that comes to your door and is trying to market that way, unless you're very sure of who they are by checking their license and whatnot. Additionally, some reminders about investment and annuities fraud. Scammers will also pose as financial advisors, offering a very high return on investment or an annuity that are either non-existent or carry hidden fees and risks. Seniors could be pressured to make quick decisions without fully understanding the terms. And I think the theme you're going to kind of hear today is that if something sounds too good to be true, or it has a quick turnaround, you've got to sign this in 3 hours or the offer's no longer, it's probably not true. So again, just really make sure to verify the credentials of any financial advisor and check with our department before committing to any investments. Everyone that's selling a product, whether it's a financial product, offering to do a service for you, needs to be registered with one of the agencies that you'll hear from today. Auto insurance fraud, sadly, is on the rise. And what's happening is folks are staging an auto accident. So if you get into an accident and you think it is your fault, but you get that gut feeling that something maybe just isn't right, take a deep breath. Don't feel rushed to make any decisions at the accident site, and don't admit fault. All you're required to do is call the police and report it to your insurance company. You don't need to tell anyone about your insurance policy or the coverage limits. All you have to do is exchange your insurance carrier information, but nothing else. So just wanted to really make sure that folks realize that. And then in terms of life insurance and long-term care fraud, the fraudsters or bad actors are selling fake life or long-term care policies, kind of what I mentioned earlier, and they're collecting the premiums and not really providing real coverage. So again, they pose as an insurance agent and convince us to maybe change our beneficiaries, surrender our policies under false pretenses, things like that. And so really to prevent that, we want to encourage you to contact your insurance company directly to verify any changes rather than make those changes because somebody has contacted you. So what are some of the insurance scam warning signs? So scam agents often target senior citizens and use various schemes to fraudulently gain victims' trust and cultivate friendships in order to steal money from them. So we just really need to make sure we're on guard and protect our information. Again, we all know the saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. One of the things we hear is that often agents will offer a free seminar in sites like an assisted living center, a retirement community, or places of worship, or maybe even a nice restaurant. Come to this free seminar and you're going to get a free meal, right? And then the agent will offer to create or update a living trust in order to see your financial information. And what they're trying to do is find new clients that potentially can be worth a lot of money to them, and then give them the free living trust that they are offering. So they want your financial information, so it's really up to you to guard that. So we just want to really remind you that no senior retirement living trust specialist, there's no designation, there's no title of that. So if they're advertising that that's their role, that's not even a designation that exists. So again, rather if somebody's approaching you, you would want to contact who you normally deal with and ask these questions. And let's see, also wanted to just kind of touch upon that as a reminder, one of our rights as seniors is that we may review a policy of life, annuity, long-term care, or our Medicare supplement for 30 days after we receive the policy in order to decide whether we wish to keep the policy. So if you decide you do not want it, you can return it for a full refund. And this applies to everything except maybe some variable annuities. So what can you do to avoid becoming a victim of insurance fraud? So step one is check the status, as I mentioned, of the insurance company and the agent on our website. Make sure they are in good standing. You should always answer all questions thoroughly and truthfully. False statements or omissions can cancel your policy. Important, on your applications, don't leave any blank spaces, because then that gives someone the opportunity to fill in information without your approval. So don't leave any blank spaces on the application. And then just make sure to get everything in writing so that you can compare policies. You wouldn't want to pay with cash, but rather make checks payable to the insurance company or the agency name, not the agent's name. And then don't buy coverage that you can't afford, and only make sure you get coverage that you need. So you want to really take a look at, make sure you have an agent that you trust, to make sure you're not overinsured, because some of us buy a policy for everything that's not necessary, but you also want to make sure you're not underinsured. And a good agent can help you with that. And then lastly, just probably most important, is ask questions. So what does my policy cover? What doesn't it cover? What's excluded if I buy this policy? What is the cost and how often are my payments due? If I cancel early, are there any charges? Is it suitable for my situation and my plans? So there's just lots of questions that you can ask, and your agent, if a good one, should absolutely know that. The other thing we like to remind folks of is it's perfectly fine to have a trusted person with you. You don't need to do this by yourself. So absolutely pause and have someone with you is really recommended. And then just never sign anything that you don't understand. Whatever they're offering you today is probably going to be available tomorrow, when you can get someone with you to just run it by them. And then just lastly, on this page, there are some organizations that you can call here. The first one is obviously us, the Department of Insurance, and that is our toll-free number, 800-927-4357. And that's where we've got lots of experts that can answer questions about any line of insurance. So whether it's homeowners insurance, auto, life, any line of insurance, those folks that answer can help you. Then we also have the Senior Medicare Patrol, AARP Fraud Watch Network hotline, and then our website, Coalition Against Insurance Fraud. So these are all organizations that can help you learn about current insurance scams and where to report them. And then just lastly are some resources that the department's website has. We do have and host a senior gateway, which is a one-stop website intended to provide all of us and our families and caregivers information in one spot. So when you go to that website, you'll learn things about avoiding and reporting abuse and neglect, common scams, preventing fraud and financial abuse, healthcare information, and things like that. So it's a really good website, again, partnered with lots of other agencies, DFPI we partner with, to just kind of have all the information in one spot for you. Oops, sorry about that. Make everybody dizzy. So anyways, that website is seniors.insurance.ca.gov. And again, I'm here if anybody has any questions at the end of the presentations from the others. And so now I will give it to Bryce Avalos at the California Privacy Protection Agency.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I really appreciate that presentation. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Bryce Avalos. I'm the outreach manager at Cal Privacy. We just recently renamed ourselves to Cal Privacy. We still are the California Privacy Protection Agency, but Cal Privacy for short. All right. Just want to make sure everyone can see my screen before I get started here. Looks like I'm good. Okay, so today I'm going to give you a very high-level overview of your privacy rights in California related to the agency and how you can exercise those rights. So first of all, just wanted to give you a little background. We are a brand new agency started in 2020 by you, the voters. We were on a proposition that passed the ballot. And so I'm on the public affairs team here, and we are really focused on educating consumers about their privacy. And with the recent rise in elder fraud, just year over year since 2020, we felt that this was a really important issue to talk to consumers about. So today I'll be going over personal information, how it's used legally and how it can be misused, what your privacy rights are as a Californian, some top privacy tips to exercise your rights, and finally, how you file a complaint if your rights are violated. So what is personal information? At a very basic level, it's pretty much anything that identifies you. We have a pretty good list here. It's not comprehensive, but this is kind of the main ones. You know, your name, even like a pseudonym you would use online could be used to identify you, your purchase history, financial account details. And there is a difference in the law when it comes to personal information and sensitive personal information. So sensitive personal information is a subset of personal information. So, you know, personal information can be some basic stuff like your name and your email address and maybe your browsing history. But sensitive personal information could be your genetic data or biometrics, your precise geolocation, your social security number, and your driver's license. So all of your personal information is protected by California privacy law, the California Consumer Privacy Act, and you have additional protections for your sensitive personal information. So personal information, how is it used? So businesses will collect your personal information in a variety of ways. I mean, oftentimes when you do business with a company, you end up giving them some of your personal information. You know, for example, if you go get a haircut at Great Clips, you know, you're giving them your phone number. If you, you know, you might have to give your address to a business that you're working with if they want to mail you something. And it can be also collected online when you're on the internet. Websites collect your personal information across websites oftentimes. And what these businesses use this information for in legal fashion, there's a few examples here. So one is targeted advertising. So, you know, I'm sure we've all been browsing for a certain product. Let's say, you know, you're looking for some red shoes over on Amazon. And you look at that for a while, and then all of a sudden now you're on Target's website and you're seeing advertisements for red shoes. That's not a coincidence. That's because your personal information is being collected across those websites and then shared with advertisers so they can target advertising to you. It's also used to track your purchasing habits. So for example, you know, myself, I'm a dad, and so maybe I might be buying some diapers for my kids, and they'll start to build up a profile on me. They say, okay, this guy's a dad, and they'll start to send me certain products that I might use as a father. And then finally, like I said, it's sold to other companies. So when you're on a website, if you're filling out forms, it could be collecting your personal information. There are these small files called cookies that are used to track your information across websites. And as those businesses collect your personal information, they can then sell it to other companies. And this actually doesn't happen just online, it actually happens in person too. Going back to, I guess, my Target example, I think that they have a rewards program over there at Target, and a lot of other big businesses. Don't mean to just pick on them. There's Walmart, Home Depot, smaller businesses too. Those rewards programs a lot of time will ask for your personal information, and if you really looked at the fine print of those, they're collecting that personal information so they can turn around and sell that to other companies. A lot of times to do the other goals on here, send you targeted advertisements and to track your purchasing habits. So yeah, you see there at the bottom of the slide, personal data is the new oil that powers many of today's businesses. They are profiting a lot off of personal information due to advertising. And so that's the legal fashion that your personal information might be used in. Now, today we're here to talk about scams and fraud. So I wanted to talk to you about the way that data can be actually weaponized by criminals. And so how is your personal information used illegally? So there are businesses out there called data brokers, and I just want to reiterate, data brokers are a legal business. In fact, our agency regulates them. And data brokers are businesses that collect personal information and sell it and trade it, but they don't have any direct relationship to you, the consumer. And so you might be wondering, it's like, how do they get my personal information if I don't have a relationship with them? Well, just going back to, for example, the rewards program example. Sometimes these businesses will collect your information from the rewards program and they will sell it to a data broker, or they could be collecting it when you're browsing their website. They could be collecting your personal information and they'll turn around and sell it to a data broker. And there's other ways they can get it too. For example, public records. Any public records out there, those are fair game. They can collect your information from that. They can also collect your information from your public social media profiles. So just, getting ahead of myself on tips a little bit, make sure you lock down your social media profiles and they're private and only friends can see them. So I say all that to say these data brokers are building massive profiles on everyone, really. When you're browsing the website, when you're interacting with businesses in person, that's being sold to data brokers. They're creating large profiles. And what they do with this information is they sell it. It's legal for them to collect it and sell it, but they don't use any discretion on who they sell it to. They will sell it to anyone, including criminals. And so now what has happened is your data has been collected by a data broker and it could possibly be sold to a criminal. And these criminals will create fake identities based on this information. They will aggregate things such as your phone number, your email, who your family members are, really detailed stuff, maybe where you went to college, where your kids are going to college. It runs the gamut. And what they do is they take this information and they organize it into a phishing scam or a phone scam. And I think a couple of my colleagues may have alluded to this a little earlier. But especially with AI, they're able to copy somebody's voice. So you could get a call from somebody pretending to be a family member, and they may have a convincing voice because of AI, and they've used all of this information that they have on you to create a very convincing scam of somebody that may know a lot about you. And so in that, they can then use that as a way to enter a wide variety of scams, from financial scams to anything you could really think of. So I'm going to give you a few tips today on how we can minimize this. And just a quick note, again, getting ahead of myself on tips a little bit. For these phone scams, I encourage you to have a password set up with your family members so that if you do get a call from a family member asking for money or asking for information and you feel suspicious, and in fact, if they are asking for that type of information, you should feel suspicious, make sure you have a code word in place. Something really easy that not anybody can guess, but maybe it's something personal to you, and make sure you only share it with those family members so that if you do get a call asking for information, you can ask for the code word, and if it's in fact a family member, they'll be able to give it to you, and if not, then you'll know at that point that it's a fraudster. Okay, moving on. So I've told you, what personal information is, how it can be used, how it can be misused. Now, how can we protect ourselves from the data misuse by protecting our privacy? Well, first of all, we want to reduce our digital footprint by understanding and exercising privacy rights. We can learn some top tips to do that for both web and for mobile if you're browsing online. And finally, if a business isn't respecting your privacy rights, I'll let you know how to submit a complaint and how those can help improve your privacy. So in California, we're lucky enough to have some of the strongest privacy rights in the United States, and that's because of the California Consumer Privacy Act, unique to California. And so we like to summarize our privacy rights with this acronym, LOCKED. And I'll go over and I'll name each of these individually, and I'll dive kind of more into some than others because some are frankly more useful than others. So locked. So you have the right to limit the use of your sensitive personal information. You have the right to opt out of the sale of your personal information. You have the right to correct the inaccurate information that businesses may have about you. You have a right to know the information that businesses have about you. You have the right to equal treatment under the law, so businesses can't discriminate against you for exercising your privacy rights. And finally, you have the right to delete the information that businesses have collected from you. So I'm going to take these in twos and actually reverse them because that makes the most sense. So we're going to start with the L and the O, so limit and opt out. So let me talk about opting out. So you have the right to opt out of the sale and sharing of your personal information. And what that means is that if you tell a business to stop selling your personal information, they have to stop selling it. They cannot use it. They can't sell it to other companies, which is a really good step to stop your information from being sold to data brokers, which can then get to criminals. And I'll tell you how to do that a little bit later in my next slide. And you also have the right to limit the use of your sensitive personal information. So if you remember my slide earlier, sensitive personal information is a subset of personal information. So if you've already opted out of the sale of your personal information, they can't sell your sensitive personal information because they're the same thing essentially. But when you limit the use of your sensitive personal information, what you're doing is you're actually even further protecting your sensitive personal information. You're limiting what that business can do with that sensitive personal information, even internally. Sometimes businesses will use that information to create a profile on you, and you can tell them, hey, no, I only want you to use my sensitive personal information for the very specific services that I've asked for. So next to correct and know. So you have the right to know the information that businesses have collected about you. You can send a request to a business to know your information up to 2 times a year. And you can find the request form in a business's privacy policy. That'll be at the bottom of their website. So look for a link down there called Your California Privacy Choices or Privacy Policy or something to that effect. They'll have a link at the bottom of their website. And in fact, you should be able to exercise all of these rights, at least in the most basic way, by going to a business's privacy policy in the footer of their website. You also have the right to correct inaccurate information that businesses may have about you. So say you've submitted that request to know and you find all of a sudden, maybe they have your last name wrong because you got remarried or divorced, or they have an old address, or maybe they got your nationality wrong. So you have the right to actually correct that, and the business has to correct that for you. So the E and the D, I'll take the delete first, right to delete first. So you have the right to delete the information that businesses have collected from you. So again, submit a request. There should be a link in their privacy policy And you could say, hey, I want you to delete all the information that you have on me. And that's a really good step to protecting your privacy. So if you exercise your right to opt out and they're not selling your information, and you exercise your right to delete and you've now deleted your information, those are two really big steps. Of course, there's some exceptions that apply to the right to delete. For example, if they have to keep that information to do business with you, going back to like maybe my Great Clips example, they might need your phone number so that they can call you for an appointment. And in that case, they wouldn't be required to delete your personal information. But if they have extra information that they don't need, you have the right to delete that. And then finally, the right to equal treatment. So equal treatment, if you've exercised your privacy rights and maybe the business is like, hey, well, now we're not really making that much money off of you because we can't sell your personal information, so we're going to raise the price. They can't do that. They have to treat you equally if you exercise your privacy rights. All right, so I know that was a lot to digest. Privacy rights are a big new topic and it's emerging. So we want to make this a lot simpler for you to actually exercise your rights. And so I'm going to give you some top privacy tips that will help you keep your personal information safe from fraudsters and scammers, or at least more safe. And we actually have a whole list. We have up to 10 tips on our privacy website at privacy.ca.gov. So if you want to learn more details about the tips, I would encourage you to visit our privacy website. So first tip I'm going to give you is to limit your website tracking. So as I say, your personal information is being collected when you visit websites, across websites. So here's 3 tips that will help cut down on websites tracking you. So first, delete your browsing data and third-party cookies. So you can do this in your browser settings. So if you go up, it should probably be, depending on the browser, it's usually up in the right-hand corner, and there should be a settings button, and you should see history. And so if you occasionally go through there and you delete your browsing data and you delete your cookies, there should be a checkbox there to delete your cookies. It's going to be harder for websites to track your activity over websites because a lot of time they rely on that information. So I would just encourage you to periodically delete your browsing history and third-party cookies. You can also look into a more privacy-centric browser. A couple that I would recommend are Mozilla Firefox and DuckDuckGo. They have a lot more privacy settings on there that you can configure to make yourself safer. Finally, I talked about the right to opt out of the sale and sharing of your personal information. So there's a few ways you can do that. I think we've all probably seen that banner that pops up at the bottom of a website when you're browsing, and it says a wide variety of things. It's asking you about your cookies. It's asking you about opting out. So it'll ask a wide variety of things, but you actually have the right to opt out there. Some people, including myself, until I joined this agency, didn't know that was an option. I thought that I had to click accept if I wanted to use the website, and that's not true at all. You have the right to reject those cookies. You have the right to opt out. So when you see that banner, don't click it away so fast. Read it and see what it's asking you, and make sure you exercise your privacy choices in the way that you want to. And if you don't see that banner popped out, you can actually go to the bottom, like I said, for the privacy policy, or there should be a link that says your California privacy choices. Now, I realize that is kind of a lot of work, especially if you're going to like 10 or 15 websites in one sitting. That's a lot of clicking links and sliding banners. It can be a lot of work. So there actually is an easier way to do it, and it's called an opt-out preference signal. The opt-out preference signal that I like to use is called Global Privacy Control. So I would encourage you to Google that, Global Privacy Control. That's an opt-out preference signal that you can use. It's an add-on to your browser. So you can download that and install it in your browser. And it's a set it and forget it. You just say, hey, select your privacy choices on there. For me, I said, hey, I don't want any third-party tracking cookies. I don't want advertising cookies. And I want to opt out of the sale and sharing of my personal information. And now on every website that I visit, at least on the browser that I have it installed, those privacy choices are enforced. And that's actually a requirement for California law, is that businesses have to honor your opt-out preference signal. So next, I'll talk about limiting mobile device tracking. You may not know this, but actually mobile devices are less secure than websites, than web browsing. And that's because of a lot to do with the hardware that is on your phone, and it has a lot to do with the apps that you use on your phone. And so there's some really useful settings that you can use on your phone that will make it a lot harder for businesses to track you and sell your information. So on the iPhone, if you go to the settings, and I'm not as familiar with Android, but I know it's very similar. So you want to go into your settings and look for privacy. And there should be something that allows you on Android, I believe it's reset your mobile advertising ID. And then on the iPhone, you can turn off your mobile advertising ID. And so you'll want to go into your settings and search for privacy settings and look for something that says mobile advertising ID. You want to turn that off or reset it. So that ID is like shared with advertisers across the board, and they use it to build a profile and share information on you. So if you turn that off, it makes it a lot harder for them to do that. You can also adjust your app permission settings. So that will be in the individual app settings on your phone. Not every app needs to know your location. I know some do, especially if you're using Google Maps or something like that. Of course, it has to get you to your location. But I hate to keep picking on Target, but Target doesn't need to know your location all the time. There's also an option that you could say, ask this app to just do the location when the app is open. That's a really smart one too, because if you have that turned off, the app is tracking you wherever you go. And you also might want to look for photo permission settings. Some apps automatically select permission for your photos, so you can turn that off. So I would just encourage you to go through your apps and make sure that the settings on those are to where you like them, so you're not sharing too much information with these apps who can then turn around and share it with other groups. Finally, apps are built in, well, your phone has something built into the apps called software development kits. These software development kits are shared with multiple advertisers, and you can actually turn them off. And it's really easy to turn them off in the iPhone. So you want to look for something called, oops, I'm sorry. You want to look for something called Apple Tracking Transparency, and that'll also be in your privacy settings, and you can turn that off. And that makes it so that advertisers cannot share your information from their software development kits. On Android, they don't have this setting built in. They do have third-party apps on Android, so I would just encourage you to maybe take some time and Google some good fixes for turning off third-party trackers for your Android. And again, I know this is kind of wonky and in the weeds, and it may be a lot to take notes on if you are taking notes, but I just want to reiterate that all of these are on our privacy website at privacy.ca.gov, all of this and more, and it goes into detail, step-by-step directions, and we reference multiple sources. So if you really want to do this right, I encourage you to visit the website where you can sit down and study how to do this properly. All right, and then I have kind of an exciting announcement coming out for next year. We are releasing a platform called the Delete Request and Opt-out Platform. And this is going to be a really good solution to data brokers selling their information. This is specifically made for data brokers. So Drop, coming out next year, will allow California residents to log in and submit their personal information for deletion from all registered data brokers in California. And all data brokers are required to register with CalPrivacy. So when you submit that request, the data brokers have 45 days to delete your personal information, and they have to continue deleting your personal information every 45 days. We're really excited about this because obviously data brokers present a major privacy risk for Californians. And with this, we will majorly be able to cut down on that. We just put out a new web page with all the information that you need to know that's coming soon. And you can find that at privacy.ca.gov/drop. Finally, if your rights have been violated, we have a place to go for you. Privacy.ca.gov/complaints. You can submit your complaint there, and we investigate all complaints. They really help inform our investigations. For example, a consumer complaint was submitted against a company called Tractor Supply Company, where they were not keeping job applicants' data stored properly. And because of that, we were able to take an enforcement action against them, and we were able to settle with them. And it's not just a settlement, that they also have non-monetary penalties, meaning they have to fix the privacy issues on their websites. And we've entered into settlements with also with Honda and with clothing company Todd Snyder. And so all of these companies have now been forced to fix the issues with their privacy, and we hope to continue to get consumer complaints so that we can continue helping you and protecting your privacy. So please, if you feel that any of your privacy rights have been violated, again, remember the acronym LOCKED. You can file a complaint with us at privacy.ca.gov/complaints. All right, just quick recap for you all, because I know that was a lot in a short period of time. So remember, your privacy rights are summarized with locked, right to limit, opt out, correct, no, equal, and delete. You can find our top privacy tips at privacy.ca.gov, include using an opt-out preference signal to opt out of the sale and sharing of your personal information. And finally, Drop will streamline data broker delete requests, launching next year. And remember, if your privacy rights are violated, you can file a complaint at privacy.ca.gov/complaints. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation here today, and for listening to all of our presentations here today at Senior Scam Stoppers. I hope that we're helpful to you. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email me directly, bryce.avalos@cppa.ca.gov, stands for California Privacy Protection Agency. I've also put our general email address up there if that's easier to remember. So thank you so much. That concludes my presentation. And I will go ahead and hand it off to the next presenter. We have Destiny Wells at the California Bureau of Household Goods and Services. Destiny. Oh, you're muted, Destiny.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Destiny Wells, and I am with the Bureau of Household Goods and Services. I'm just getting my slideshow here. So some of you probably are wondering, who are we? Because you've never heard of us before, and that's okay. I was the same way. But basically, we cover 3 different industries. We cover home furnishings and thermal insulation. We also cover electronic and appliance repair. And then most recently, we added the division of household movers. So I'm going to start with home furnishings and thermal insulation. This program got started shortly after the San Francisco earthquake in 1906. They discovered that much of the damage with the fire was caused by mattresses that were highly flammable. So they started requiring manufacturers, importers, retailers, and all people in the industry to be licensed. They also required certain labels to be affixed to products so that people can look and see what's in the product. And also they do testing and safety. So they actually test products for flammability standards, and also to make sure that the ingredients are not toxic and that they are, as advertised on the label. So this is a snip of our website. The most important thing you're going to hear today, whether I'm talking about any 3 of our programs, is that you need to check the license. And so this is the place where you can do this. This is our website, www.bhgs.ca.gov. Here is where you can search a license. So the left hand where I'm pointing at is going to be for the household movers, and the other one would go for any of the other licenses. So Hefty or EAR licensees, you can search there. These are some examples of the labels that you would see on our bedding and furniture. The one on the left is what you'll see on most items. These are new products. They have a registry number here. which you can actually look up on our website. They will have some indication that it's new material and what the product consists of. And then they'll also have a statement here that it's in compliance with the law. The middle one is actually for secondhand items. So anything that's using secondhand filling materials and upholstered furniture will have this. And the one on the right is for labels on mattresses that have been used. They are required to be sanitized in order to be sold. So any used mattress should have this yellow tag on it. If it doesn't, you shouldn't buy it because we don't know that it's been sanitized. Again, here's some more examples of our labels. This is really cool. This kind of gives you a picture of what we do. So our lab actually burns mattresses, and what they're looking for is they're looking for an acceptable level of flammability. And what does that mean exactly? Well, if a fire breaks out and it's on your mattress, are you going to be able to get out in time? Or are you going to go down in the flames? And that's essentially what we want to make sure is that all of our mattresses that we're selling in California are not so flammable that you can't get out and get to safety. This is one that passed. This is one that failed. You can kind of see the difference there. I'm going to move into electronics repair now. What are electronic repairs? Well, all of these things could be considered. It started with televisions. Now we have cell phones, tablets, computers, game consoles, dishwashers, washer and dryers, blenders, microwaves, even like those RC cars that a lot of kids and some adults actually like using. Those are covered as well. There's some basic things that you should know, which will save you from getting scammed. One, you should have a written estimate and it should have the total price, and it should be provided before the repair. Any additional parts or labor or any charges should be approved by you, which can be verbal. And then a service dealer must return all parts unless they're unsafe or toxic. And so unless you ask, you don't want them back. So make sure that you're actually wanting to see the parts so that you know the repair was actually necessary. Service contracts, another area we order. What is a service contract? You can also think of this as an extended warranty. So it's a written contract covering a specific period that can replace or repair an electronic or appliance. The main things you want to know is before you buy, understand what it covers and does not cover. When does it start and stop? What are your liability limits and your responsibility as a buyer? You also want to know your rights. You can actually cancel your extended warranty or service contract if you do so within 30 days. So if you buy it and you decide, you know what, this wasn't necessary, or I don't really like the way this contract is written, you can cancel it for free and get all your money back within 30 days. So something important to remember. And just to let you know that we do have some jurisdiction, but it's only over consumers' personally owned appliances and electronics. Meaning if you're in an apartment complex or you're in a rental and you don't own those products, then we wouldn't have jurisdiction over that. Your landlord would need to file a complaint. We do not cover home warranty companies. So those are not one of the contracts that we actually have jurisdiction over. Now I'm going to talk about the meat and potatoes here, Household Movers, my favorite program, but also probably the most risky as far as scams. So if you're moving within California, all moving companies need a permit, and that actually includes restoration companies. And why is that? Well, restoration companies will come in and repair your home, and often they will remove your household goods and put them in storage for a period of time and then return them. So they do have possession of your household goods, so they do require a permit. And if you're moving into or out of California, you'll need our permit, but you'll also need to be registered with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. They are the federal entity that has jurisdiction over moving companies. Sorry, I seem to be having some difficulty with my slides here. I don't know what happened there. I think my screen's frozen. So basically, what I would like to say is that if you have any complaints with moving companies, you should basically contact us right away. Some of the issues that we see with moving companies is that they often will provide a low estimate, and they'll do so over the phone without visually inspecting your goods. All estimates need to be provided after your goods are visually inspected. So if your goods have not been visually inspected, then they probably are not providing an accurate estimate. And a lot of companies will go in to do this just so that they can get the foot in the door. And once they get there, they're going to jack up the price. So important, very important to get that estimate done beforehand. The other thing you should look out for is once they load your property on the truck, they then have possession of it. They should not be changing any services or adding any fees once they've started loading your property. If anything has changed, they should present you with a change service, a change order form. And that basically will let you know basically what charges have been added or what services have been changed that require a new price. And then you can either agree to that and or not agree to that. And the number one most risky scam that we see is what we call a hold hostage. A hold hostage is when a moving company takes possession of your property, and before delivering it, they contact you and they extort you for additional money. And believe it or not, this happens a lot, especially with senior citizens and disabled folks, because they know that they have more difficulty actually moving the items and getting help. And so they could take advantage of them. And so that's something we need you to contact us right away, because we need to go ahead and get started on your complaint case that same day and try and get your property back. It is illegal and it is fraud. And if you run into that situation, I hope you'll contact us right away. Again, I apologize. I'm not sure what's going on with my slideshow. It just paused in the middle of this, but my contact information is available, and I will make sure to put that in the chat. Again, my name is Destiny Wells. I'm a special investigator with the Bureau of Household Goods and Services. If you have any complaints or any questions within our three jurisdictions, please reach out and contact me. And thank you so much for having me. I'm going to turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thanks, Destiny. And our next speaker is Johannes Wong. And Destiny, we'll make sure to get that contact info and everything up on the website. We always have problems with tech and everything we do, but really appreciate the presentation and all the great points that you made. And Johannes, take it away.
Right. Thank you, Assemblymember Berman. Let's see here. Let me just get my screen up here. So I'm a special investigator with the California Department of Real Estate here. A lot of good tips we've all heard so far. I think I'm probably going to be rehashing a lot of it here in, when I talk about tips on how to prevent fraud. But let me just tell you a little bit about the department. We started over 100 years ago now, and our mission is consumer protection. It's, that's the highest. That's our highest mission here, and we do that through licensure, enforcement, education, and outreach. Just trying to educate everybody on when a license is required. What types of activities you would, sorry about that. So, So you would need a license, if you're representing others in the purchase and sale of real estate, acting as a property manager that's collecting rents, negotiating leases, brokering mortgage loans. And another thing, you would need a license for is brokering business opportunities. So whether that's like representing buyers and sellers of like liquor stores or gas stations or things like that, you need a license to do that as well. There's 3 types of licenses we issue. One is a salesperson's license, there's a broker's license, and a corporation's license. Salespeople, they can't go into business for themselves. They have to work under a broker or a corporation, so they can't get paid directly by anybody. All their compensation's got to flow through their employing broker. A broker and a corporation license, pretty similar in terms of when they can receive compensation. And then some of the common types of scams we're seeing nowadays are what's listed here. And in general, a lot of scammers now are co-opting license numbers. They're looking up licensees on our website or what have you, and just using that license number if they're seeing that this licensee maintains a license but isn't really like out there on the internet or doing much. They don't have a lot of employees. They think they can just get away with that type of thing. And so in general, timeshare scams, you're going to get phone calls from people just cold calling, saying, hey, you want to get out of your timeshare? We've got buyers. And what they're going to do a lot of times is they're going to send you money and say, hey, this is for the taxes and the transfer fees and all that. And then they'll say, whoops, we sent you too much. Can you send us some back? Just wire it back to us. Well, the money they sent you originally is, not good. And you sending them money, it's kind of lost, unfortunately. And another one we're seeing now is vacant land title fraud types of issues where the scammers will go in and they'll notice some land that's owned free and clear, and they'll go in and they'll say they're the owner, and they'll contact one of our licensees and try to list it and sell it that way, or they'll file liens on the property. And then we've also got here rental scams where it's kind of evolved now. It used to be they'd advertise on Craigslist. They'll put some pictures up of the property, and they're never clear, and they're kind of generic, like close-up shots of the bathroom and things like that. But they'd advertise them really low, and now they've kind of adjusted that, and it's just a little below market, and they'll give you kind of a story on why that is, and that's kind of how they reel you in. We've actually got a little video on that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it after the video. So here we go.
Since 1929, Shane Company has been making.
Sorry, we're not sponsored by Shane.
A tight rental market can make people look for deals that may be too good to be true. I spoke with a local business owner who nearly lost thousands of dollars because of an online rental scam. He wants other people to take note so it doesn't happen to them.
It was really the price with the quality of the house. That's what drew me in.
San Luis Obispo resident Michael Hughes nearly lost thousands of dollars going after a home rental that turned out to be a scam. While searching on Realtor.com, Michael came across a home with a beautiful backyard, multiple bedrooms, and a price that can't be beat. He reached out to the so-called landlord, but almost immediately came the red flags.
Got personal real quick, like tell me about yourself, tell me about your family, give us a picture of your family.
And then came the landlord's background story.
And the story was, we don't live here, we're moving to Wisconsin, we want great renters, we know it's undervalued, we want to help someone else out.
And finally, they asked for $5,000.
We're going to send you all the paperwork, all the keys, all the things. I haven't been inside of it. I haven't looked in the backyard. I haven't met them. Just send us this money and we'll send the packet back.
The biggest red flag is that somebody wants you to actually put money down on a property before you've ever seen it.
Rick Lopes with the Department of Real Estate says the biggest rental scam they're currently seeing has to do with identity theft on various rental sites.
Unfortunately, scammers are out there grabbing those pictures, creating whole new postings on different websites showing those homes as actually being for rent.
And at a very attractive rental price. The president of People's Self-Help Housing says the tight housing market in San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties could make desperate renters more vulnerable.
Just within those two counties, we have 13,000 households on our wait list for just around 2,000 units.
You hear the old adage about things that look too good to be true. That's certainly the case, especially in a tight housing market like you have on the Central Coast. There's not a lot of rentals available. The good ones are usually going to go pretty quickly. So if you see a really good house at what you think is a really low price, you at least have to stop and ask yourself, is there some reason why that's the case?
I asked Michael, a successful business owner in San Luis Obispo, how he was able to nearly fall for this scam.
I played into it because you're always looking for the best deal.
Fortunately, he didn't lose any money, but did lose a little faith in people who take advantage of others in a vulnerable situation.
Because you're moving your livelihood, moving your family, your home is like your sanctuary. It guts you. It feels like, gosh, that's just so messed up.
And the actual landlord tells us she contacted the website as soon as she was aware of the fraudulent listing and was told it would be removed within days. I reached out to Realtor.com to find out what policies they have in place to prevent fraudulent listings from slipping through the cracks. They sent me a statement that reads in part, rental scams are a common problem impacting the entire industry, and unfortunately, there's no foolproof way to prevent them entirely. To counter the rise in these scams, there is a button on every rental listing on Realtor.com that enables a consumer to flag a listing that does not look legitimate. And we also offer consumers tips and resources on our site about how they can protect themselves, including reporting scams to our sites and authorities.
Okay, yeah, so and it's not just targeting seniors, this is affecting everybody here. Maybe you have grandkids that are getting out of the dorms and they're looking for a place to rent, and they're finding these places and they're back home and college is a couple states away or whatever, and they're feeling the pressure. So some of the red flags again is asking for money up front, asking you to wire money to a bank account, and that bank account's not kind of matching up with who you're dealing with. We've seen that as well. Like, well, why am I wiring money to a bank in New York or Wisconsin? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. You want to check the agent's license and maybe Google them, and if they're a salesperson, see if their broker's out there and see if their broker knows about it, especially if this agent is asking you to pay them directly, because that's a no-no. A lot of times these advertisers won't be able to coordinate a viewing with you, and they're going to say, oh, it's not available to view, but you need to send money now because interest is high, etc., etc. Don't send money before you've seen the place. In fact, and that's not always a guarantee either, because we've seen cases where one of our complainants actually scheduled a viewing after sending thousands of dollars, showing up at the place is locked, they call the person, and the number's now disconnected. And so we have seen that happen as well. I guess I just won't reiterate what most people have been saying, is just, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Look up license numbers, ask questions. No is a complete sentence. If people are calling you out of the blue, don't divulge too much information. Don't be pressured to take action right away. Don't sign blank contracts, etc., etc. Now, a couple of things, not necessarily scams in the sense that we've been talking about here, where people are cold calling you, but if you are, a property owner and you have rental properties and maybe they've been under management by the same company or person for years or decades, and you kind of trust them. Make sure you're getting your rents, because we've seen also like people don't pay attention to their bank accounts. They don't know that rent has been missing for some time, or they're getting, less than they think they should, and the property management company is just saying, well, we needed to make repairs and this and that and the other thing. Well, make sure you're getting invoices and make sure they make sense. So you're reviewing paperwork, you're keeping up to date on your bank accounts. And that can, maybe sometimes catch things before they get too far down. And another thing we've seen here, and it's kind of shady and unscrupulous, but you're going to get involved in an agent. They want to list your property, and their tactic is, hey, list it low and we're going to drive interest and we're going to get over asking, don't worry. And if it doesn't sell, or we don't get what your real number is, then you're not going to owe me a commission. Well, that's all verbal. So we've also seen complainants say, hey, well, this is what he told me, and now he's trying to sue me for commission because he brought me someone at list price. That gets really murky because that's a civil issue that we can't really weigh in on because there's no evidence either way. It's basically one guy's word against another. And we wouldn't be able to order, money to change hands or anything like that either, but that's something to be aware of as well. And so with your going back to the vacant land and the title stuff, you want to make sure you're searching, just search Google now and then, or check the status with the county clerk. We did get actually somebody who was on top of things, and he's like, hey, somebody listed my land. And we contacted the agent and they're like, oh man, we'll fix that right away. And they did. So what we're trying to do is educate even our agents to verify identity. And I know some counties out there now even offer a property owner alert program where they'll alert you either electronically or through the mail that something's happening on your property, or on the title. So I don't know if that's something that all counties offer at this point, but it might be worth it to check in with your county clerk to see if that is something that you can get added to. Anyway, and if you ever have any questions, feel free to give us a call. We've got a lot of great resources on our website right here. And I think that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Johannes. Really appreciate that. Thank you to all of our presenters for these really thoughtful and thorough and informative presentations. And once again, we will have all of this on our website so that constituents and folks can go through it as slowly as they want. You can repeat things if you're not sure you caught all the details. And then obviously, contact info will be on there if you have any questions and want to follow up with folks. We're going to do a lightning round of Q&A. I want to ask my presenters, if you can, keep your answers as short as possible so that we can get through as many questions as possible. There have been a lot of questions about, the kind of real estate fraud and in particular, kind of people taking out deeds on your home. And Johannes, you covered some of this stuff throughout your presentation, but in specific, how do you avoid scammers from taking out a deed on your home and then borrowing against it? And a follow-up to that was, somebody asked, there's a scare ad on major radio stations which says that one's home title can easily be taken over by bad actors, and we need to sign up for a title protection service. How prevalent is this?
Well, we can't endorse the title, fraud services. But I mean, we are seeing it more and more just now and then, because when things are owned outright, that's people aren't paying attention because they're not making mortgage payments. The only way to really prevent it, I think, is education and trying to stay on top of things. And again, I think through our educating our licensees to verify identity of the people they're dealing with when they're listing properties. It's great to see some of these counties have kind of trying to get ahead of it with these programs that they're offering now. And I think if more counties get on board, I think that's gonna help a lot. If the consumers know that these services are out there that the counties are offering.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to chime in on that one? Not seeing anybody. So a constituent asked, I answered an automated call from my healthcare provider saying I had a balance on my account to pay. How can I tell it's not a scam? I'm not sure if this cleanly falls under anybody's purview, but if anybody has any thoughts on it. Lisa, looks like you're unmuted.
Yeah, thank you. I can try to take that. So the best advice I can give is anytime someone is to call you, you can thank them for the call, you can hang up, you can be however polite you want to be, but then I would encourage you to call your carrier yourself, right? You can look at the number on the back of your membership card. Certainly you know how to reach your carrier. Call them directly, then you know you've reached them, and ask them if there is indeed a balance due. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I love it. And it kind of, I know somebody had shown slides of text that they'd received that were clearly scams. Never click a link on a text. I'm not aware of any reputable business that sends you text messages, telling you to pay for things. They'll send you a letter in the mail. They'll, send you an email maybe. But I agree. Always, I don't click links for things I receive. I always proactively go to the websites. I log into my account. I figure out, I look there if there's a balance, and then I pay it that way. Because you just can't trust the stuff that you're being texted or really emailed. Definitely never give your credit card information or bank information over the phone. Another question so this came up in one of the presentations. After an auto accident, what information are we required to provide?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And so you are required to provide your driver's license, your vehicle registration card, and evidence of financial responsibility. So example, your insurance card. So those are the three.
Sorry, Lisa, but you don't have to tell, what coverage you have, the specifics, right?
Right. Yep. Just that you have coverage, right? So the insurance card should have the name of your carrier, phone number, whatever it is that the other party needs, and that's it. Yes, that's a great question.
Great, thank you, Lisa. Somebody mentioned about doing a credit freeze, and a constituent asked about the difference between credit freezes and credit locks, and the fact that a lot of the agencies will try to steer you towards a credit lock, which costs money, versus a credit freeze, which is free. Can anybody dive a little deeper into that?
Sure. I think a credit freeze is one of the best things to do. It does involve all three credit bureaus, and it's free, and it's something you can do yourself. I think a credit lock, sometimes you use third-party companies. Those companies can be great, but at the same time, most of that you can do by yourself. You can also ask the credit bureaus for credit monitoring, which is great too, but I think a freeze is one of the best things you can do.
Great. Thank you, Katie. And that was news to me. So I appreciated that during your presentation. Go ahead. Destiny, do you want to jump in? Nope.
Hi, I'm sorry. I keep having
Oh no, we lost you again.
Can you repeat your question?
Maybe if you sign off of one of the ones that you're signed into, Destiny. Okay, Destiny, we're going to come back to you once the tech is back up and running. What rights do we have with respect? And I think this might be for Bryce. What rights do we have with respect to location tracking on our personal phones by an employer, which I know has been a topic of conversation in the legislature of late?
So, this is probably a question for my legal team. This is a really nuanced type of area. So I can't really speak to your employer tracking you. If you want to send me an email, I'd be happy to follow up with my legal team and get you an answer. So you can either email me at bryce.avalos@cppa.ca.gov or info@cppa.ca.gov. But I can reiterate that your precise geolocation is a type of sensitive personal information. And so you do have additional protections over your sensitive personal information. I'm not an attorney, and so I can't exactly speak to how that applies to your employer. But if you follow up with me, I'd be happy to connect you with our legal team.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bryce. Destiny, I think you might want to chime in on the last question, which was the difference between credit freezes and credit locks, or maybe not.
Oh, Destiny, or did you mean DFPI?
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. Sorry about that, Destiny. Thanks. So I think we got a good answer to that question earlier. So is it a good idea to sign up for a reverse mortgage and let them pay property taxes automatically, or are they scammers? Anybody have any thoughts on reverse mortgages? So to that constituent,
Yes.
we might. Oh, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say we do have a pamphlet on our website about reverse mortgages. I mean, I think it's important to know what you're signing up for. There's a time and place for everything. It's not all scammy, I guess you would say. So just be wary of what you're signing up for in those cases. But it's not illegal.
Perfect. And you mentioned there's a pamphlet on your website that dives a little deeper into some of that guidance.
Yeah, there is. In fact, there's a lot of resources on our website to help educate consumers, because we can't be everywhere all the time, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Johannes. Here's something that I've read a lot about. I've heard a lot about. Is there anything I can do to get my money back from a cryptocurrency exchange scam?
I'll take that one. Yes and no. You do have some options to try to recover the funds, or at least help the authorities trace the money. What you need to do is gather your transaction and communication records. I mean, everything, any email, screenshots that you have, and you need to file reports immediately with your local police department. So wherever you are. With us, we have a crypto scam tracker, which is great, but definitely go to our website. That's DFPI. You need to file with the FBI, and that's ic3.gov, and also the Federal Trade Commission, and let them know. You also want to notify your bank or crypto exchange immediately, and do not ever pay for a fund recovery service.
So fund recovery services.
Oh, sorry.
Please go ahead. Sorry, Katie.
Oh, we have all of this information on our website in detail.
Wonderful. And so a fund recovery service, it sounds like that's a sort of another type of scam.
Yeah, some yes and some no, but it's nothing that you need to pay for.
Yeah, perfect. Appreciate that. So if you've been a victim of a crypto exchange scam, go to DFPI's website, and they've got lots of great information on there. Somebody asked, what websites are best to monitor for identity theft and breach of personal information?
So I can recommend one. There's one that the federal government offers. Well, there's a couple that the federal government can offer. So if you go to identitytheft.org, that one is run by the FTC, and from there you can monitor if you've had identity theft happen. They kind of give you all the steps that you need to take to recover your identity. They can help you. I'm sorry, it's identitytheft.gov. Unfortunately, it's shut down right now due to the government shutdown, but once they reopen, you can use it. And it'll give you step-by-step directions on how to recover your information, freeze your credit, etc. There's also another good website that is by the federal government called annualcreditreport.com. And that is a federally authorized site for all three credit bureaus to help monitor your credit and make sure that you haven't been involved in a data breach.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bryce. Okay. This came up in a lot of different presentations. And so, probably anyone can jump in, but how can you defend yourself against in-person scams? For example, people pressuring you to purchase items or share information. Anybody want to jump in there? I'll say I enjoyed, somebody said, no is a full sentence. You can just say no.
And I'm happy to touch on that as well. Yeah, absolutely. To echo your point, Assembly Member, is you're not a rude person for saying no. Having boundaries is a healthy way to communicate and a healthy way to protect yourself. Because sometimes we do kind of feel that like emotional response or that pressure in the moment. And it's hard to kind of stay in a headspace of critical thinking when they try to make you feel like you have to take advantage of this opportunity at the moment. So just as it was mentioned earlier as well, if this is genuinely a service you want, take your time to kind of go back, look at the website separately or the place where you can get more information about it to do your research, and just tell them, I'll look into it. Thank you. Have a nice day, right? Because it's hard to say no when people approach you in person, but it's also okay to do that.
I very much appreciate that. I struggle with this when folks come to my door. Y'all, I'm a politician, right? I'm sort of a people pleaser. That kind of comes with the territory, and that includes with random people who show up on my front door. But I just have a blanket policy. If I don't really want to have that much information. If you want to leave something, you can leave something. I'll check it out myself. I'm for sure not giving you my credit card or signing up for anything from a random person who shows up with a little vest on my front door. Just be skeptical. Just be, I hate to say it, but just by nature, our default has to be skepticism. And like a lot of folks have mentioned, if the deal's that good, it's going to be there tomorrow. It's going to be there the next week. But I think it's kind of good to have a blanket policy of not signing up for anything when it kind of comes out of the blue and shows up on your doorstep. All right. An extermination company gave me an estimate to secure my crawl space from rodents. The photos that were provided to me to show the extent of damage weren't even of my crawl space. How can I find a reputable contractor to do the work? So what's best practices for getting good folks?
Yeah, and thank you so much for that question. It can be tricky because unfortunately one of the few services that we don't offer at CSLB is like a running list, of like everyone we license, because staying impartial, we license all providers, right? So good practices would be, like I mentioned, compare your options, and there's a lot of different review resources and websites online. Really take advantage of reviews. I like to recommend that because there's also, not everyone might have access to this, but take advantage of your social capital, right? So those you might know, friends, family in your communities. If you frequent a local senior center, maybe there's people who have had the same contractor or, exterminator for 30 years. And I actually believe extermination specifically is not licensed by CSLB. I believe that is pest inspection that is separate. But in general, it's the same concept, right? Of taking the time to review your options. And even I like to say, for those of you who may go to church or are part of different communities, right, where you have access to getting good references or recommendations, that is a good place to start. Some people will also utilize Angie's List or like I said, places online where you can read reviews. I hope that helps.
Makes a lot of sense. And the Better Business Bureau, can also be an option.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Fall back on. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Those are all great. Okay. A couple more quick questions. We might go a couple minutes overtime if folks can. If panelists have to drop off, I totally get it. Keeping on with the lightning round. Often after establishing an account online, we're asked whether we want to save our password. If we do save the password on our personal computer, is it secure, or can a hacker capture the password and access the account?
I could take that one. So generally, I mean, it depends on the web browser and the security of your web browser, to be honest. So I mentioned before that, there's different privacy-friendly web browsers, and different password managers have different strengths. So it also depends on the security of your computer. So I would encourage you to always keep your software up to date. Have a strong password on your actual computer. Because to get into your passwords, they would have to get through your computer. They'd have to get into your browser. So keep your software updated. Have a strong password for your computer. Use a privacy-friendly browser. And if you really want to take the next step, use a password manager. I believe somebody else, maybe it was DFPI, was talking about having unique passwords for everything and hiding your passwords in a recipe book. That's one way to do it. If you have a password manager, it's very secure. They're built for this. They can create very long strings of passwords that you don't have to remember, unique ones for each website. And some of them can actually even store multi-factor authentication within them. So that's the most secure option for your passwords, is use a password manager.
I think I need to go sign up for that right after this seminar. And this is funny because I have a colleague in the Assembly who actually has helped all of us use best practices on our cell phones. How can I get reliable videos on a reliable video, a kind of tutorial on how to set privacy settings on my phone and computer? So I don't know if there are any, good, kind of best sources for that.
So off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I know we're actually working on developing some of those. So again, visit our privacy website. We have some videos on there. I don't know if we're specifically talking about that, but we'll go ahead and build up our video library. There's also civil society groups that offer that. One of them that we work with is called EPIC. I forget what the acronym stands for, but epic.org. They have a lot of good tools to protect your privacy. And there's also yourdigitalrights.org is another website, civil society group that I would recommend you check out.
Thanks, Bryce. I think I've worked on legislation with Epic before, so definitely appreciate them. Okay, last few. My information has been used to create fake Lyft and Uber accounts. I've contacted the companies to resolve the issue, but no luck. Who else can I reach out to for help? So I don't know if anybody's heard of this, kind of fake accounts with different companies.
I could take it. What you need to do is contact the state regulator in California. It's the Public Utilities Commission, oversees all rideshare, and they'd be able to help you.
Perfect. Thank you, Katie. Can I claim two more? Can I claim money that has been scammed from my accounts as a loss on my taxes? Anybody know the answer to that one? If not, we can dig into it and get back to that constituent. Nope, no takers. And I did see that Destiny provided the URL for the pest board for the person who had the question about rodents in the chat. Appreciate that. And Ruby just reposted that to everybody, so everybody should have that. And then last question: what do you do if your devices have been hacked and you get a blackmail email? call me and we'll help you figure it out, I think is the right answer to that. So call my office. We gave you the phone number earlier. I'll go find it in my talking points and I'll give it to you again. 650-324-0224, 650-324-0224. If you ever have any questions or feel like you're being scammed in any way, please give us a call and we can help connect you with the right state agency, or if there's a different level of government, we'll connect you to them. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today for the Senior Scam Stopper. We got to over 170 people on the Zoom at our highest, and I know another 550 RSVP'd, and we're going to send the link out to everybody. Somebody else had asked about that. We'll send out the link to the recording to everybody afterwards once that's up on my website. We'll also have the panelist slides up on the website for you to reference, and with department contact information and resources. And a special and huge thank you to all of our fantastic panelists for taking the time to teach my constituents how to stay safe from common scams and uncommon scams, and for answering such great questions. And to everybody who joined us either live or if you're going to watch the recording, for wanting to learn more about how you can protect yourself from bad actors. And last, I want to give a huge shout out to my staff for helping to organize today's event and do all the logistics behind the scenes. Always grateful to them. They do all the hard work, and then I just speak on the Zooms. So appreciate everybody for caring about keeping yourself safe. Thanks for participating, and hopefully I'll see you out in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.